And it needs to get from the bodily fluid of one person living with HIV into the bodily fluid of somebody else living with HIV. Yeah? Follow me. Now, there is a lot of treatment available. There is treatment for HIV. The treatment doesn't cure HIV, but what it does, it stops the virus from reproducing in the body. And if somebody finds out that they have HIV, they take medication straight away to stop that virus getting out of hand, because we don't want it to get out of hand. Now, when somebody is on effective medication, it's what's called undetectable. And the World Health Organization agrees and says and confirms you cannot pass it on. You can't. If you're on medication. Can you see that? Only if you're on medication can you not pass it on. If you don't know, and you're not on medication, you pass it on. So knowledge is, thank you. And to go back, you cannot get HIV from kissing. You can't get it from the toilet seat. You can't get it from sharing cups or knives or forks. You can't get it in the swimming pool. You can't. It's a blood-borne virus. And the virus needs to be in the blood, in the bodily fluids. That's the only way you can get it. Now, let's talk about did I do so? Okay, let's talk about transmissions in 2022. 58% of people who were diagnosed were heterosexual. 37% men, between men, 2% sharing drugs, and 2% was vertical. And the vertical is like people, there's one woman actually who found out she was pregnant and she didn't know, and she passed it. Does that 58% surprise you? I was shocked when I saw that 58%. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, because we all know somebody. It could be your cousin, your friend, your work colleague, somebody that you could say, well, actually, this isn't something that just affects gay men. It's not. So can you understand that the knowledge is, that's why I'm here. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's a lot of this education awareness going around. The whole of the UK, not many black people know about it. Can you see what I'm saying? So the knowledge is thank you. Right. There are 39 million people across the globe living with HIV, and over half are women. Over half are women. 106 people in the UK are living with HIV. About 31% are women. And guess what? Women and heterosexuals are going up. Men are going down because they have the education. The heterosexual community don't have the education. That's why it's going up. Now, there are ways to prevent HIV. One is testing. The other one is treatment, condoms, and also something called PrEP, which I'll go through. So testing. it's come a long way since the 1980s, and tests are getting better all the time. You can go to your clinic, people can get tests at home, they can be sent home. There are many ways that people can get tested, and it only takes 15 minutes. This is something important that I think different communities, different people should know, and that is PrEP and PEP. PrEP, the first one, is a medication. So if you do not have HIV and you get into a relationship with someone and you don't know if they do or they don't, you can prepare yourself by taking PrEP. And PEP is if you've been exposed to something risky, it's like the morning after pill. I bet you didn't know that. So if you know somebody, a friend, a work colleague, a cousin, somebody, and they've put themselves in a risky situation, and you think they want the morning after pill, you could say to them, maybe get some PrEP as well, just in case. See? Now, the last thing that I'm going to say is HIV does not discriminate. It doesn't. It doesn't matter if you're black, you're white, you're male, you're female. It doesn't matter. It's all over the world. But people just don't talk about it. Have you got any questions? Okay. Now I'm going to go into the second bit. Story time. So, I want you to think about, just for a couple of seconds, something that you felt embarrassed about, something that was a secret. Because I had a secret when I was young. I was quite young, and guess what my secret was? When I was reading a book, the words on the page got jumbled up. When I was trying to do maths, I couldn't really get it. Does anyone know what was going on with me? Dyslexia. I didn't know that. I didn't know I was dyslexic. So, carried on with my life, and then I got married. I had 3 children. The marriage didn't work out. There was some domestic violence issues. It didn't work out, and we got divorced. And I had 3 children. And so I felt quite sad, you know, that the marriage didn't work out. But it didn't. And so I threw myself into work. And actually, work was going quite well. It got to the stage where I met the Prime Minister of England. It was Tony Blair. It was about all the work that I was doing. I was in a senior position. Work was going well. My children were doing so well at school. It was great. Life was great. And then I thought that I get my eyes checked on a regular basis. I get my teeth checked on a regular basis. But I have never needed to get a sexually transmitted infection test. Why would I? Look at me. I don't need one of those, do I? But I thought I'd go and get one done. And I remember the day when I went into the clinic to get my results. It was after work. I had just given a presentation to 400 people standing there. I was busy. I went to the clinic. I walked in. I sat down. And there was a woman sitting opposite me. She had short blonde hair. And her eyes were kind of glazed. And she took my hand and she said, Louise, you have HIV. Well, my world just ended. I was confused. My response to her was, what? What? I'm a woman. How could that happen to me? So this is what I done. I went home. I opened the front door. I went upstairs and I looked for my will, because as far as I was concerned, I was going to die. I've got 3 children. A few days later, I went back to the clinic, and this is what they told me. Louise, we give you medication, and you cannot pass it on. I repeat, once you're on this medication, you cannot give anybody HIV. You don't need to worry about your children. You don't need to worry about touching, kissing, spitting, none of that. You cannot pass it on. But that didn't make a difference to me, because I had learned from a very young age that if you feel embarrassed about something, like you can't read or write properly, you keep quiet. So I kept quiet. I felt so ashamed. I felt so embarrassed. I felt so lonely. I couldn't tell Lorraine. I couldn't tell my mum. I couldn't tell my friends. I couldn't tell anyone at work, because they would judge me, because I felt ashamed of who I was. I was not compassionate with myself. I didn't think I was enough, so I kept quiet. Not for 1 year did I keep quiet. Not for 2, not for 3, not for 4. I kept quiet for 10 years. That's the level of shame that I had, that I kept quiet. I come from a Caribbean community. Can't do that. How can I tell someone? How can I tell my mum that? My mum raised me to be a good girl, not someone that would let that happen to her. How could I tell her that? How could I tell my children, my 3 children? So I told no one. And you know what I done? To help me cope with the pain and the shame, I drank quite a lot of alcohol. Smoked quite a lot of cigarettes. I felt embarrassed, and that helped me to not look at who I am. It helped me to not see who I was. You know that saying, when you can take a mirror and look at the reflection? That mirror was behind my back. I could not do that. And one day I got fed up. I got fed up of being drunk. I got fed up of the smell of cigarettes on me. I got fed up and I got tired. And I decided I don't want to do this anymore. I started to journal. So I got a book and I started to write in it, like a diary. And I'd been doing it for a while. And then I said, there's something, I'm talking to myself, there's something that I know I need to write. And one day I did. I sat in my bedroom and I wrote. I opened my journal and I said, there is something that I need to write. ... The first tear came down. I don't know how to tell my children ... HIV. And as I'm writing this, the tears were falling down my face and onto the page. And I got up, I went into my daughter's bedroom, I sat on her bed, and I was shaking. And I said, Elle, there's something I need to tell you. I said, what is it, Mum? I said, I've got HIV. She went, Mum, why didn't you tell me? And she put her arms around me. I told my sons, and their response was, it's not that deep, Mum. Because they had been educated, because they're younger. I told my mum. She said, Lou, why didn't you tell me? Why, Lou? Why you went through that for so many years by yourself? I said, Mum, it's not you. It wasn't you. It wasn't anyone. It was how I felt. Lorraine said to me, Lou, how? We tell each other everything. How could you not tell me this? But the shame was too much for me to bear. Once I started to talk to my community, the people who loved me, I felt a sense of release. And I became free. I started to love myself. I started to look after myself. I turned vegan. I practice yoga. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I have fun. I got married last year. When I went on my date with him, we went on a date, and it was on my mind, yeah? So we went on the date, and it was such a good date. And I said to him, by the way, I'm living with HIV, but don't worry, you can't get it. What about you? Have you been tested? Because I'm okay, but what about you? And he was like, wow. So, sometimes in life, we have things that we don't want to talk about. We have secrets. We have feelings that we don't want to express. When I started to come out and start talking about HIV and start loving myself again, I decided to go for a dyslexia test as an adult. So from such a small child, I thought I was different. I wasn't enough. I wasn't going to be accepted. And now I know what was going on. I had dyslexia. We don't need to go through these things alone. We don't need to be alone. There's always somebody that you can talk to. There is. There's always someone that you can trust. There is. I'm so glad I'm here today. Thank you so much for your time. And you don't know, I'm going to say, you don't know the amount of talks I have given to the police, to Amazon, to the Chelsea Flower Show, blah, blah, blah. They are all educated when they hear my story. I want everyone in my community to see me and to be educated so you can help other people. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a, Oh, sorry, I just walked off. Have you got any questions whatsoever? Yes. Mm.
And then the most famous sportsman was Magic Johnson. And then we started looking at the management team, then it would run. Somebody was ill and they had a little cut. People would just run away. Now I remember, I mean, I remember before I left the league, 2006, this year I was, my landlord at and got to the point where was whenever he gets very low, he just pays for himself. But I had to go there, think out. But then was a brave man. But I mean, I had this education of family stuff, and I could not get anything. But just the stigma, when the kids were walking on the road, and this was somebody who was very courageous, but it would not hurt. Back when we call it bookstore, here is farms. So they had one of the farms. So the little kids would look, and they would just look at the house, and they would stand on the opposite side of the road. And I remember him getting very just they got he would start back on and come back from games and class or different classes. But father food and then try. But food just help her. Help her. That's it. That's not a big one. But yeah, that was so education, understand all virus and cancer. And then, what are no more cognizant and conscious of virus and spread of virus. So I guess others have other stuff like where
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can't. You can't. But the medication has changed so much. The reason why so many people died in the 1980s of something called AIDS was because they didn't have medication. Now, the medication has improved so much that where you used to take, say, 3 or 4 pills a day, you take 1 pill a day, 1. And what they're working on at the moment is 1 injection every 6 months. That's what they're working on. So we don't even say the words AIDS anymore because people don't die of AIDS. Because once they find out, they go on medication. But here's the problem. If people don't get tested, they leave it too late, their immune system starts to break down.
So one thing they're doing at my trust, Barnet and Chase Farm, Royal Free, if you come into the A&E, every person will get a blood test to check for HIV. So whether you want it or not, they will check. Yeah. So I think that's how they're going to reduce it. Kind of like, well, help us to find out if you have it or not.
Yes, there's not to do that.
Yeah.
Opt-out testing. And there's only certain hospitals that will test you regardless if you want it or not. And I think at the moment there are 5 or 14,000 people and they don't know they have HIV.
I've had a heart transplant, which most of you know, and during that whole process, they asked me all about my sexual history, and I was tested for every single sexually transmitted disease going, whether you wanted it or not. They asked you to fill in a form to agree to it. And the questions they asked, it was just, well, my mum had to leave the room at the end of the day. It was sort of like that, because she said, you don't really want your mum to know your history. And I was like, well, she's going to know at some point, and there's nothing you can hide. There's no point in hiding it. And I'm so thankful to hear that there are medications out there to help you. And your story touched me a lot. And I want to say thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. And my daughter used to work for a clinic, and so she's got lots of knowledge on PrEP and things. Yeah.
Because of the stigma where it's just mainly saying about, oh, sexually transmitted disease. It's all about thinking that you had, it's from like when you had sex, unprotected sex. I had to encourage like patients where I was working, because I used to work in a sexual health clinic, and HIV patients to get tested, to do the full screening. Some of them, and also when an incident happened, when someone has been tested positive, legally you have to tell the person that you've been in contact with that they're in contact with someone that's been tested positive. You have people like, well, they don't tell them the name, but just said you've been in contact, and the next minute it's like the whole behavior, demeanor, it changes because the shock and scare, and then their attitude is like, no, they don't care. But then it's like, fine, but then what about the other person? They have the right to know. But then next minute it's like, it's the whole understanding of it, and then also the aggression towards doctors, because they're just trying to do diligent care to protect the other people because they really don't know. And also encouraging them to even, it's not just like being in contact, those that are being sexually assaulted, they have to have PEP within like 48 to 72 hours. If they don't, you're exposed, literally. So it's like trying to literally to remove that stigma where it's just mainly, oh, just sexual. It's not just that. It's mainly like, it can happen like through blood transfusions or transplanted. I had to tell my colleague, because they made the assumption saying, oh, they should not go sleeping around other people. No, it's not about just sleeping around other people. It can be transmitted through an organ, a needle, anything could happen, but it doesn't mean that they've done it to themselves. It's just unfortunate circumstances. So yeah, it's lack of awareness sometimes. And that's true, because also most of the clinics, we always kept seeing like just gay men and lesbian women coming in for it, but it's never the heterosexual ones coming in. And it's mostly like in the clinic, it was mostly for the ones that in the LGBTQ getting the knowledge and education, but it's like, what about the other half? And it's not literally going out towards them as well, or promoting it to show that it's not just them, it can be everyone. I even witnessed a child had to go and get tested, because when the couple said they want to have a child, it actually goes onto the child as well. And then they have to be tested and make sure they check their viral loads to make sure it doesn't go up. And I had to be explained about it, what is viral load. And then the higher the viral load is, the more easily it can be transmitted. And it's like, why this is not literally told to everyone? Because I am trying to encourage patients to make sure they take the medication was the hardest thing. And then when they run out of medication, left it to the last minute, and if they leave it within like 5 or 10 days, they're at risk, high risk, and the weight is just rapidly growing. So I'm really grateful that you actually spread the awareness, because it needs more of it.
when you found out, did you contact your ex-husband or?
The question was, when I found out, did I contact my ex-husband? When I get asked that question, which is quite often,
Yeah.
I never talk about how I got HIV because it's not fair to the person. It's just not fair. I got HIV through sex. That's it.
Okay.
You know, that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, you've answered the question. It's okay. But just so the other person.
I think, yeah, I think I was, this is quite important actually. I was divorced and I was sterilised. And the reason I was sterilised was because I didn't want to fall pregnant. That's it. I just didn't want to fall pregnant. I had 3 children. And I was educating my children about safe sex, but I didn't need that education because I felt I can't get pregnant. Can you see?
Good afternoon. I'm Louise' mom. I didn't plan anything, and Louise didn't know. But 20 years ago, I met a man who lived close to me, next road to me. And we was talking in the bus stop. And he said, "You come from church?" That was opposite my church. I said, "Yes." He said he was a strong Catholic, but he got AIDS and he stopped, he left. I say, "Well, that's the time." 16 years he never go to church. I say, "That's the time you should go closer to Jesus." And he came back. He's a Scotchman, very nice man. And he told other people in the church. And they start telling me, because I'm deep in my church, I should contact the priest. I did have a word with the priest, and the priest contacted the cardinal in Westminster. And the cardinal says, the doctor says, because the people was worried to drink the wine, as you all know, the Catholic. So he was afraid. Everyone comes to me, they're afraid. I didn't know about my daughter. I thought my daughter is a good girl. Nothing would happen to my family. So anyway, the priest contacted the cardinal. The cardinal went to doctors. And he says it's free to drink from the cup. He used to come to my house. When I find out, I had a glass in the cupboard for him. I had a plate. And he used to come. When I come in, I see plant a flower. Very nice young man. I could be his mother. And today, he is so deep in the church. He trained the altar server. He's master of ceremony. He's everywhere. And he's so much healthy. Amen.
Thank you very much. Just 2 things really. The AIDS epidemic saw. I work in a hospital because you obviously don't know, Louise, but I work in a hospital. And when AIDS first came about, I met my first AIDS patient. And at the time, no one knew how it was transmitted. So porters wouldn't come and pick him up. People came in scrubs, plastic aprons, plastic shoes, hair stuff covered, gloves, 3 lots of gloves, and virtually with a stick to try and transport from one place to the next. They looked like spacemen, because they were so frightened, because in reality, we had no idea how it was transmitted. So we can kind of understand their fears and anxieties. But it was, when we told him, there was myself and a couple of the doctors, and we said to him, "Look, you've now got AIDS." And he was 70 at the time. 70 at the time. And he looked at us and said, "Oh," he was shocked. And then he said, I suppose no one wants to shake my hand anymore. And everybody put their hand out to shake his hand because you recognized actually he was human and this had happened. I suppose my other comment is that contact tracing puts people off. Contact tracing puts a lot of people off because they've now got to tell somebody, well, they don't tell somebody, they obviously, a letter goes through, but that person will know it's you a lot of the time. And they'll be coming looking for you. And so that whole idea of, I've had this relationship, I've now got AIDS, and maybe my second, but someone knows, actually, I know this person, it's got to be that person. And they come look and ask you questions, and it's very then embarrassing to have to then say, actually, it's me you got it from. And that becomes very, very hard indeed going forward. So it's one of the reasons possibly why people don't do what they need to do. And as you rightly said, working in a hospital, you see blood transfusions. We've just had this case recently where the government have put their hand up and said infected blood, for hemophiliacs from America. So a lot of people got infected blood from abroad, from America, whatever. Some of those developed AIDS, they've developed hepatitis, all those kind of things. We know transplants cause it as well. So we now are better educated, as you rightly said, than we were previously. But in those early days of when I was working in hospitals, it was so. If I knew people who stopped nursing because of AIDS, they just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. The risk is too high. I'm gonna ditch nursing. So it was a problem. But I'm glad to know it's much better now, definitely.
Thank you so much for that. And just to say that when people find out they have an STI, and it could be HIV or anything, they can ask the clinic to contact people. So the clinic can contact someone and say, there is somebody in your past that has something. No, they say somebody in your past and you need to go and get tested. That's all they say. Somebody in your past has something and you need to go and get tested. So that's another way.
But it depends how many partners you've had during that period of time. So if you've had just one partner during that period of time, and if someone says, someone in your past, you know that person is. Yeah?
Yeah, I agree with you. And that is why people need to take responsibility for their own health.
Yeah.
Even if it's one part,
No, I agree.
you might want to take responsibility because there are many married people. I've met many married people who are living with HIV through their husband or wife.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for sharing your story, Louise. I was just going to ask, how do you feel on a daily basis since you take your daily medication for your HIV? How do you feel?
How I feel absolutely great. Like I really do feel like I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm just happy. I'm the happiest that I've ever been. And I mean that.
Good.
But I really, really do. Because I learned to love myself. I learned to respect myself. I learned to open my heart. I had to find out who I was because I was hiding behind alcohol, HIV, and shame.
Okay.
No more.
Oh, thank you.
You know when you went to get your test at the beginning, you said you went to the clinic to get the test done. Was it a niggle or it was just the spur of the moment? Because you're saying that 58% of the population, you say? Yeah.
Why? Because I've never had one before. I just felt...
You're just
why not?
prompted
It's
to do it.
When you go for your smear test, you go for your eyes, your teeth, you just think breast examination, you know, you just go for them.
Okay.
Men should go for prostate. You know, there's all these tests that's one that I didn't think I needed because I wasn't going to get pregnant and I'm a good girl, so I don't need it. So I just went to tick a box.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. So you're just prompted to do it and you just went, yeah.
Just found it.
Oh, okay. No, it's not.
So I just have to say, Lorraine just said because I wasn't sick, and
if was acquired immune deficiency syndrome, is there any way that you can strengthen your immune system so that you're resistant?
So,
Is that-
AIDS is only if your immune system is weakened. We all understand that, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And just to say, there's no one in the UK really with AIDS because everyone gets tested and they find out in enough time. Nobody really dies of AIDS anymore like that. No one. But your question about strengthening the immune system, I make my own apple cider vinegar. I'm vegan. I do intermittent fasting. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I wake up at 4 o'clock every day. I go to the gym. I do climbing. I read.
So you had a strong immune.
So I'm doing everything I can to look after my immune system. So that it stays now.
Yes.
I do it.
Oh, you want?
So was it shown that being vegan was something that would really help with you? Because I just say within our church, because I'm not saying it to have a go at anybody, but it just seems to be us. We seem to be introducing meat back into our church. But obviously you went vegan because there must have been evidence that showed that if you were vegan, it would make you more,
I'll
I'm
tell you
assuming,
what the
healthy.
reasons that I went vegan. One day, my big toe started to hurt, and it hurt so badly that I couldn't put my shoe on, and it was gout. Another shameful thing, because I thought only white, old, drunk men who are homeless gets gout. I just didn't think it was something that I could get. I didn't. I mean, I'm a professional woman. I can't get gout. But my diet was too rich. Too much meat, too much dairy, too much alcohol. Gout is the rich man's disease, as they call it, because it's very rich. And it wasn't helping me. So that was one of the reasons I went vegan. And another reason is because I know that it helps your immune system. And another reason, I was just fed up. I love to cook and I was fed up of meat. I thought, let me try a different way.
Can I just ask, did you have any therapy as well? Because this is when someone tells you this, it's like, how do you process this? So you went through a lot of therapy to get you to that point. Okay.
That was it. That was the main thing that really helped me. But I got therapy after, interestingly, because after I started talking about HIV and I was out, I felt great. And the reason I went to therapy was because I said to myself, this is the best that I've ever felt. Let me go therapy, see what it's all about. So I didn't go therapy when I was down. I went therapy when I felt great because I thought I'm strong enough to go deep to find out what was going on, and it's really helped me.
So you would say definitely get it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Louise, I think, as you said, education is very key to understanding this situation. I know of two instances. I know of others, but these two particular ones really stood out. There was this young lady, and she got involved with a married man. And she said in her testimony that because she knew him, his wife looked good, he looked good, she thought she could have taken a chance and gone protected. And that's how she caught AIDS. Well, she got HIV. Eventually, she died from AIDS. Yeah. So she was giving her testimony on the radio before she died, because she was saying, no matter how healthy that person looked, he was a married man, have his wife, she looking fine. She thought, well, okay, he should be safe. And that was the biggest mistake she made. I know about another one where a pastor gave it to a lady. The pastor came, had crusade in the country, and he was very flamboyant, and everyone liked him. But she was a married lady, And she would go to his house with the other girls, you know. And eventually, he invited her up to America, where he was going to have another crusade. And she ended up, unfortunately, going to bed with him. Got HIV, she did not know. She returned to her home country, to her husband. They had a child. And it's only when the child born, they found out the HIV situation. And again, she thought, well, he's a pastor, you know. I mean, she should not be doing that anyway, but she thought he's a pastor, he should be safe. And that's what happened. So education is very, very key. As you said, it's no respect of anyone. And people need to understand that.
I met girls, young, white, 16-year-old girls that have HIV. I've met people from churches who are ministers. I have, young, white, heterosexual men. There are so many people out there that you would never know because they hide and they don't want to be seen because they're afraid of being judged. But now you know, you can shake my hand, you can touch. It's never going to be passed on. It will not. You know?
Are there any more?
Just a comment, only to say, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's inspirational, got a loud voice. It's inspirational and very brave for you to come forward, because that will encourage others to do the same and know that there is support. And I think many people suffer in silence. So I'd like to thank you.
I'm glad you said that, because I know I said it before, but I have to say it because I'm in my unity. I have to let you see me. I have to let you see who I am, who I was, and you need to know my story.
Well, if there's no other questions or comments, I just want to say thank you so much, Louise. Really appreciate it. It's just, I don't know about you, but I've learnt some stuff. Have you been educated? Yes, good. And I think it's important, particularly in a church as well. Sometimes we can be so judgmental and even unloving. And I know I have a passion for Walthamstow to be the most friendliest, lovingness church that there is. So, so I want us to be able to take this education, to open our arms, and to and just love others. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Louise. Again, much appreciated. Much appreciated. Okay. So, Larry, do you want to just come up for a minute? So, we have a campaign coming up in October. Can anyone remember the dates? Who said that? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the 12th to the 26th of October. Please save that date. We have 3 Sabbaths, it's 2 weeks. And do you want to just tell us about the...
So, our speaker, for those who are not familiar with our campaigns at Walthamstow, each year we bring a speaker from overseas. We have developed a habit of doing so. And for October, in the past we have had speakers from within the UK. So last year we had 2 or 3 speakers over the 2 weeks. And for this year in October, we have a speaker who is British born. So he was born in the UK he grew up as a Muslim. He and his family, they left for the USA, then they left the USA for Saudi Arabia, where he lived in Riyadh until his dad moved him on to, because he then decided that his mother, should I just leave him to tell the story? I leave him to tell the story. But he was a Muslim, the family turned, became Adventist, and he moved on to India, and he was brought back. He's now a minister in the USA, and he will be coming to present, to be with us for 2 weeks. We will be having activities leading up to our campaign. The master guides in training in August, they'll be doing a series of activities for all the Sabbath afternoons in August. So sometimes you say for young people, we are there, and our master guides, they are still young people. We are still young people. So they will be leading out in August in the afternoons. So you're not traveling for holiday, be here. And if you are going to go back to the US, delay your flight another month. Right. So on the 29th of June, they're having would I say an event? An outreach event by the where as a church we will go, we will play some music, sing some songs, we will pick members of the community, and we will and just interact with the community at large, just to let them know we are here for you, and as a church, it's a home away from home where you can come. You want to share with the community what we do. If I say hands up, how many persons here know that our church runs a food bank every week? So you have one. Is there anyone who's hearing this for the first time that this church runs a food bank? I see a few heads nodding. Right. So our church, we have a food bank every Tuesday, which starts at 11. And in the holidays, when school is on half term, we do Friday. We do Tuesdays and Fridays at the home. Yeah? So every Tuesday, every Friday, you can come along, we have food bank for everybody. I collect stuff from food bank. So food bank is for everybody. Because some people, they are saying, yes, I collect stuff from food bank. Huh? Right, so it's not only us as Adventists. Right. Could you repeat that last part? Hold on. Just the last sentence. Amen. So, do I need to get a big box? Right, so you think we should get a box. Right, so we can get a box where each person can bring something.
So one of the things we want to do is we're looking at Christ's method, which is basically finding the needs of the community and meeting those needs. So we have a community research survey. And basically what we want to do with this is just 2 questions. First question is, if you could change something in your life, what would it be? And then the second question is, well, it's just a list of different things that we want to provide, but also anything that they would want from us as well. So I'm going to put the link to this survey. Basically, you have the link on your phone and you ask people the questions and you fill it out on your phone, submit, okay? You don't send the link to them. So we want to know what this community wants, all right? So if you live in the area, please get that link and, you know, just go out to your friends and neighbours and ask them. Even if you don't, if you're standing up outside church, just ask the passers-by. We've already done the feeding the homeless, and did we do food bank? Yeah, did food bank as well. But we need to get out to the wider community. So I'm going to put this link in the social and rec group, get it to be put out in the announcements group, in the women's group and the men's group. If you're not in any of those and you want to be, then please see Larry, myself, or Colin. So it's very important that, so this is what we want to do. We get to know what the community needs, and then we are going to put on some classes depending on what. Let me just run through what we have here. So we want to see if they're interested in health information, health assessments, sewing classes, exercise classes, English classes, cooking demonstrations, events and programs for women, events and programs for men, events and programs for children, school holiday programs for children, if they want to be prayed for, if they want Bible classes, interested in the food bank, feeding the homeless program, all of the above, none of the above, or other. So we want to put these sessions on. Now listen, if you have something, a skill that you can teach, that you would be able to run a class here, it could be just a one-off, it could be a series, please come and see me, because if we can get the community in the church, we can do what's called, can't remember what it's called now, but evangelism, by putting stuff out on the walls and so on, that they may see something, think, oh, that looks interesting, I want to come to that. But if we build those relationships with the community, then that step from getting them to come here for the campaign is a very, very small step. At the moment, it's a huge step. Okay? Are you with me? Are you with me? Good. So I'm going to post this out. If you're not on any of those groups, come see me. I'll send it to you. But if you can, please talk to people, even if you're in the market, and just spend a little time just asking people, asking these 2 questions. Is that okay? Okay, good. All right. Is that